Dr. Miller, could you talk to us about what specific phobia is?
Sure, lots of us will understand this one because pretty much everybody has something in their environment that they're a little bit frightened about. It could be spiders, it could be heights, it could be water. Children will also have these things in their environment that they're frightened of.
Okay, so it's almost an excessive fear, would you say?
Oh, it's extreme stress when being confronted by something in their environment or anticipation.
Okay.
An anxiety disorder is a blanket term that covers everything from abnormal to pathological anxiety, fears and phobias and inexplicable nervous conditions that affect a person's ability to socially interact with others.
What are the major symptoms of anxiety disorders?
Symptoms of anxiety disorders, which vary depending on the specific type of anxiety disorder, which could include everything from obsessive compulsive disorder all the way to post-traumatic stress disorder, are generally characterized by a sense of panic, an inexplicable sense of panic, and a desire to escape a certain stimuli or an environment. An example of an anxiety disorder is agoraphobia. A person experiencing agoraphobia would have an inexplicable fear of a certain place or certain situations, and oftentimes will not even leave their homes so that they don't have to experience such situations.
And today we're going to talk about how to help kids deal with anxiety. I think a lot of them are some of the same kind of causes that you see in adults. You can have heredity or genetic factors. Generally, when you're looking at kids and adults, there's probably somebody else in the family who's also had this too. There's also some biological factors that could be different brain changes, blood flow changes to different parts of the brain, that kind of thing can affect anxiety. Parenting can sometimes have an impact on children. Overly anxious parents or overly controlling parents can sometimes cause a child to be overly anxious, and so they kind of act out in that manner.
Dr. Walker, let's talk a little bit about some of the signs and symptoms of panic disorder in children. And many adults looking at this video might have had a panic attack themselves. How is panic disorder expressed in kids?
Common problems that children have are stomach aches, feeling of nausea, dizziness, tight chest, chest pain, and children may mainly focus on one symptom. They may mainly focus on the nausea, for example.
Okay. Now, again, in adults, it's sort of more specific and often that, shotgun in the face kind of feeling. Is it that dramatic for kids as well?
It varies quite a bit between children. Some children may be focused mainly on two symptoms. Other children may have that feeling like you're just about to be in a car accident. You have an adrenaline rush.
Dr. Whitall, obsessive compulsive disorder, a hyphenated term. Can you explain to everybody what that means?
As the name suggests, people can experience either obsessions, which are repetitive, unwanted thoughts, images, or impulses. And compulsions tend to be behaviors that people do repetitively, excessively, to bring down anxiety.
Okay, can you give some examples of compulsions?
Compulsions tend to be more behaviors that people do, such as checking or washing.
Okay, and obsessions, a little bit more information, exactly what that means.
Obsessions are unwanted, frequent thoughts, images, or impulses that intrude in when somebody doesn't want them to. The content tends to be either sexual, violence, or blasphemy, or anti-religious thoughts.
Dr. Walker, can we talk a bit about precipitating events for post-traumatic stress disorder in children? I think a lot of people have heard about this resulting from war in adults and so on, and maybe for kids as well. But could you talk a bit about what kinds of things could trigger PTSD in children?
Well, traumatic events are actually common over the years in everyone's life. So common events we see in children are being involved in a motor vehicle accident, having a death in the family like a parent, witnessing a bad car accident, and even unfortunate things like family violence, physical and sexual abuse. So there's a whole range of different situations that can trigger problems with PTSD.
Now, any of those events might stimulate a stress reaction in a child, which may or may not resolve. When does it become post-traumatic stress disorder?
Well, anyone is sort of upset after a stressful event, so that's a normal response. In most people, adults and children, the stress settles down over the days. In a smaller proportion of people, they continue to feel very upset afterwards, and often you see signs like sleep disturbance, distractibility, poor concentration, and someone having difficulty following their normal routine. And if that happens, that's the time to take some extra attention for sure.
What about nightmares, flashbacks, that kind of thing? Is that part of the pattern in children?
Absolutely. Upsetting dreams, nightmares, intrusive memories are very common in children.
When we think about depression, it's important to remember that depression really is a disturbance of thought. Thought drives depression as far as all the negative mood states, anxiety, anger, and guilt. Depression is also caused by or created by thought. So if you want to change the depression, it's important for you to change the thinking that drives that. When we're looking at children with depression, understand that children up to about age 10 or 11 do not have formal thought or thinking developed at that point. So a lot of the work that we would do with children would be helping them with a lot of coping statements, trying to identify some of their sense of hopelessness or helplessness to help them better cope with whatever stressors they perceive to be in their life. With children, you tend to see with the depression, sleeping a lot, avoidance behaviors where they might create some stomach ailments and headaches and things of that sort to avoid doing certain things. Oftentimes with depression, you tend to see, as with adults, kind of a decreased sense of pleasure and enjoyment in activities and things that typically they would find extremely enjoyable and pleasant to participate in. Oftentimes with depression, you'll see children tend to eat a lot or tend to hoard food and hide food, again, mainly to comfort themselves.
And I'd always be distracted, I never be able to listen. I get really hyper all the time, and it was really annoying. Hi, my name is Mia, and I have ADHD. I have 3 brothers, and they've been diagnosed and have ADHD. They always are fighting. I'll be playing, a nice game with them, Then I'll start wrestling in the middle of the game, and I'm like, but it was fun.
With regards to ADHD, it's been very clear cut that, number one, that this is a brain-based disorder, that it's not a function of bad parenting. Furthermore, genetics play the biggest role in determining if a child is going to get ADHD or not.
I really, really hated going to school when I was younger. My mom would have to drag me to school. It was a big deal every day. It was probably because, I don't know, it was hard for me to focus, and I had so much energy, and it made school a lot more boring because you're just come on, get on with it. Get on with the recess,
The parts of her brain that would allow her to do homework or to focus in class is not working properly. There's such a compelling force against that.
What we're going to discuss today is oppositional defiant disorder, and specifically, how can you tell if your child has it? As you may or may not know, ODD is a child behavior disorder, and is characterized by a negative behavior, hostile behavior, and defiant behavior in children. And this can be also included in teenagers. And some people even think adults may have it. At least a lot of spouses complain to me that maybe they think their husbands or wives have this problem, though it's not really been diagnosed officially in these people. So what I want to discuss today is specifically children. How do you tell if your child may or may not have this problem? And there are 8 criteria that psychiatrists use. And I'm going to list them for you right now. Number 1 is the child often loses his temper. Number 2, the child often argues with adults. Number 3, the child often actively defies or refuses to comply with adults' requests or rules. Number 4, the child often deliberately annoys people. Number 5, the child often blames others for his mistakes. Number 6, the child is easily annoyed by others. Number 7, the child is often angry or resentful. Number 8, the child is spiteful and vindictive. Now, those are the 8 criteria that your child has to have to meet the diagnosis, and your child has to show 4 of these 8 behaviors in the last 6 months. So it sounds quite easy. But if you think about it, it's not, because every one of these criteria has the word often in the definition. And the problem is, what does often mean?